around 2016 or 2017, you could only see 100 calls in your iPhone in one day. After the 100 calls, it would start to erase the earliest one. And so I think by like 11 a.m. one day, I have already gone through the 100 calls, and I couldn't scroll back to see who called me at like 8 a.m. because I was trying to find someone who called me. And I didn't save a number. I thought I'd just scroll back and find it. And then I knew I was in trouble.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Revenue Problem Solvers podcast, where we look to crack the code on growing your business by tackling the challenges that keep the revenue leaders up at night. I'm Carl Ortmans, and on today's episode, we're going to dive into a topic that's regularly talked about, but not commonly really dug into, and it's the topic of scaling. Now, today's podcast is sponsored by the fantastic team at Virtual Causeway. Imagine your sales team spending less time chasing and more time closing because buyers already know your name before that first call. Well, that's exactly what Virtual Causeway does. They help B2B companies get found earlier in the buying process by the right people through the right channels that actually influence decisions today. What's the result? Well, it's fewer cold calls, better conversations, and pipeline that moves faster. You can visit virtualcauseway.com and don't forget to mention the show for a special rate. My guest today is Ben Buckley, founder and CEO of Digital Dreams, which is a commercial AV integration company that he's been building for 21 years. Now, Ben started his career at Dish Network, where he became a field service manager. He had a stable job, he was on the right track, and then he got fired. Not for poor performance, but for a DUI. That forced hand created a side hustle, and that side hustle became a company. And the company, now 21 years later, is an 8-figure AV integration business that has installed LED walls and enterprise security systems for companies like Apple, Samsung, Salesforce, and even Madison Square Garden. The first revenue problem Ben ever solved was buying formula and diapers. Now his team clears over $3 million a month. What I find compelling about Ben isn't the client list, it's how long the road was and how honest he is about why. In 2019, he set a goal to hit $10 million in revenue. Well, last year he finally hit it. And the reason it took so long comes down to something most founders won't say out loud. He was the one holding the company back. Letting go specifically of the things he was bad at is what finally broke the ceiling. Ben, welcome to the podcast and thank you for joining us.
Dude, thanks, Carl. That's a crazy intro. I appreciate it.
Oh, my pleasure. And hopefully all of it was accurate and my research was
Yeah.
correct.
No, yeah, you're good.
Awesome. So to kick us off, can you share give us context a little bit about your world? What industries, what verticals do you work
Yeah.
with? What are the selling motions?
Yeah. So in my AV world, even though a lot of people don't think they need AV or have AV, someone probably has some form factor of AV in their world. And we install all types of verticals. We install mainly mid-market and enterprise, small to like medium-sized businesses, all through California, Texas, Oregon, Washington, and Nevada. Our core is in like San Francisco. Even though we're in Sacramento, I would say like 80% of our work is in San Francisco, and we're inside a lot of the new tech startups. Probably a bunch of new AI companies you guys haven't even heard of that are just popping up. They're just popping up like crazy, and we're out there just knocking out, access control cameras for them. Like every one of these new startups needs to secure their building with like cameras, access control, the data cabling just to run the employees that are running the robots, the AI bots. They all have to have internet.
Yeah.
So those are the worlds we're in right now. A ton of AI startups out there, and a ton of small businesses to medium businesses in the Bay
Awesome.
Area.
It's cool. And Ben and I had a really good chat, and it was fun to do the prep call because I
Yeah, the
spent a
pre-chat.
little bit of my time in the consumer electronics world with LG, and I got to learn a lot
Yeah.
about panels. But what Ben's doing is on a different level. And by the way, if you ever worried or concerned or questions, check out you'll have to check out his YouTube. I'll post that later. But his YouTube channel, you start to see the things you're like, man, that's awesome. So I did show my son, who's a
Uh-huh.
gamer, and now he
Uh-huh.
wants a wall in the house because he thinks
That's
it'll help
nice.
him with his gaming. I told him good luck. So how we got to the topic today is I asked Ben, what was a successful revenue initiative you've led or an existing challenge you're solving? And we had a really great conversation, but it became really clear that it was really about founder-led scaling. And so to start us off here, you went from getting fired to building a side hustle to running a real company. So at what point did you actually start thinking of yourself as a founder and not just somebody who needed to make rent?
So I tell everybody all the time I'm like a super late bloomer. And multiple times I realize, whoa, this is bigger than I thought. Whoa, this is bigger than I thought. And it keeps going down the road, you know? And so I'd say one of the first early on times I noticed that there's going to be more than just a side hustle is when like three or four technicians that were working for me that which were 1099 at the time were counting on me to get paid from the customer to make sure that they can pay their rent. And I was like, whoa, wait a minute, I'm responsible for that. I got to get this. They're not doing side hustles on their own, you know, and that these guys are like full time for me. And that was like a early on like early on the first time I noticed something like that, you know what I mean? Like, whoa, this is like a sign of like I'm more responsible than just myself and the kids, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That was like first couple of years of doing like some residential products we were doing for Circuit City at the time. I think I was telling you about that. We were just doing
Oh,
stuff for Fire Dog. I was to do like installs for Circuit City back then, and then went to Sears and stuff. And then that was one point. I hit that at one point. And then I think around 2017, 2018. I had to start buying vans and get the guys out of their own cars. And then they all became real full time employees. And that's when it really kicked in. Like, okay, you're now a legit business with W-2 employees. Nobody's contractors anymore. Everybody reports to you, and you have to have all these rules, take their taxes out, figure out how to take their taxes out, pay the taxes, get a real payroll system, you know? And around those two times. And that does change your mind of how you think and how you are like responsible for not just yourself, but everybody else and taxes and stuff like that. So, you know, it's scary and it's fun. You know, I never let it like, I never let anything like that like worry me too much, but it is like a step back type of moment. You know what I mean?
yeah. It's interesting because I really like how you talked about, the journey, and all of a sudden when people are responsible for you, looking at you like, okay, how do I figure this out? Early on you try to do everything, and from as many founders as I've talked to is like they're like, look, I'm going to try to fly the airplane and build it all at the same time. It's all happening,
Yep.
it's all on me. When you were in that journey, what was your sequence of hires? Who did you hire first so that you can actually start that scaling motion even before you knew you were ready?
So it was a bunch of hires and a bunch of fires, right? So it was like finding someone to help me. So I would say the first key move was getting good technicians that could do the jobs as good as I could and trust them. So that way I didn't have to go into the field every day,
Hmm.
and I could stay back and do payroll and then try to do more sales and do stuff like that. So I first had to duplicate myself physically in the field. So I had to get a technician in the field or multiple technicians to do the jobs as good as I do and trust them. So that took years of training and finding somebody. Then once I was in the office, which I'm still in and out the office, but then once I was in the office, I needed help. I couldn't do as much payroll, right? Or I couldn't, not as much payroll. I couldn't do like, I would still have to route all the jobs, do the payroll, do the emails of the customers, call all the customers in between. Hey, this guy's going to be there 10 minutes late. Okay. And then so they still call you, you know, all right, he's around the corner, you know? And eventually I had so many people calling me that I think it's changed now, but on the iPhone around 2016 or 2017, you could only see 100 calls in your iPhone in one day. After the 100 calls, it would start to erase the earliest one. And so I think by like 11 a.m. one day, I have already gone through the 100 calls, and I couldn't scroll back to see who called me at like 8 a.m. because I was trying to find someone who called me, and I didn't save a number. I thought I'd just scroll back and find it. And then I knew I was in trouble because I was like, I can't take these calls. I can't take this many calls in a day by myself. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So then I was really starting to find somebody in the office, which I went through a couple of people in the office before I got to full time employees. And I would have to get creative with how I paid them. I would pay them a percentage per job that I was already giving a percentage to someone else, which wasn't sustainable. But you know, in the beginning, like maybe you find someone who, or I found a couple of people that were like, hey, I stay at home with the kids and I could dispatch all day. You know, I don't need much, and they were just helping me out. You know, and so I went through a couple of people like that, and then I started going through temp agencies to like find someone, and I had some good ones, some bad ones there along the way, and I could never find that key person until I found Kirsten, who literally changed everything for me. And the day she started, I trusted her so much from this interview I had with her. I literally said, "Here's the keys to the office. Here's the login to the computer, and I'm going into Washington. I have to go do this job." And I just left her there. Didn't even know her. I only knew her for like 2 days. Dropped everything off with her. I was like, "Here, just run this. Call me if you need me." And within like I don't know a couple hours, one of my biggest customers called me and said, "Where have you been hiding Kirsten this whole time? You need her." I was like, "Yeah, I know." Yeah, and so, but yeah, it takes a while to find someone that you can understand, that understands your business and understands like how you work and all that stuff to help better you, And so I went through multiple people, and we're still going through employees, and people change, and times change, and stuff like that too. So hopefully that answers like your question. But yeah, it was a couple of warning signs. It's like, hey, I need to figure something else out. And how are you gonna stop paying yourself or giving yourself some money to give it to someone else to scale?
Mm-hmm.
Because when you don't have enough like cash coming in, maybe in the beginning, you don't know what you can or can't pay someone. You can't like as you get to like a certain level, you're like, yeah, I could fill a position for 89,000 for the year or something. But when
Mm-hmm.
you're back there and you're just like scrounging for whatever, you're just like, I'm gonna pay you what I can give you. And
Yeah.
hopefully someone believes in your vision to come along with you.
I really like you said that because there's a analogy that I've used is I can scale a recipe, I can't scale a chef. And so if you
Yeah.
think about it that way, right? There's one Gordon Ramsay in the world.
Right.
There's not a second one. However, you can take Gordon Ramsay, have him write a cookbook or a cookbook and give it to a bunch of chefs and say, "Here's the steps in the process to do it. Go do that." So
Right.
I like that like kind of like tie that analogy to what you're doing is like I need to find more of me. And how do I
Right.
scale me? And that's a problem early on as a founder.
Right. Totally.
So with Kirsten, sorry,
Uh-huh.
what did you hire Kirsten for initially, and how come she had so much trust right out of the gate from you?
She was a friend of a friend who worked at a temp agency or who was like not a temp, but she was like the salesperson at the temp agency finding positions for people.
Hmm.
And so I trusted her because she was her neighbor. And so that like in right there helped me like get some trust. Plus some of the questions she answered one key question that she answered for me. I knew she was the right person. And the position I hired her for was project coordinator, and I just needed her to like route the guys, help me route the guys, get guys, and take half my calls and forward my calls to her. But when she was working at a cell tower construction company, and I was asking her, I asked her a question like, as I try to find contractors, right? If I was to ask you like, hey, if you're gonna hang one of these walls, what type of mount would you use? What drill would you use? I'd ask you all these questions, and then I would see if you could answer them correctly, or I could see if you're lying to me because I know by the way you pause or by the way you react, or that
Hmm.
you might say something that's not the lingo that I'm looking for. Then I know he's a liar. Like I can't hire that guy. He doesn't know what he's talking about, or he's just gonna tell me yeah because he wants the job, right? And so I kind of prepped her with a question like that, and she said, "Oh, one time she's like, I had this guy, and it was an electrician. I asked him to do something, and she's like, I knew he couldn't do it because the way he paused, and she had the same thing. She's like, but I needed to get the job done. She hired him through the company, and then the guy messed up the job, and she's like, from there." I know every time I hear that pause from someone, or she could hear the tone because he got her in trouble and couldn't do what she wanted him to do. And she knew like what to look for. So ever since that day, she could smell the BS. You know what I mean? And I
Oh,
needed someone that could smell the BS from people. I
yeah.
need someone to smell the BS from like whatever it is, whether it's a technician saying, "Oh, I can't get this job done for this reason." Oh, why? Tell me why. Tell me why. Like whatever to pull it out of them to make them do the job. Sometimes techs, if something's hard to do, they might be like, "Oh, it's getting late. I'm just going to blow this job off." And you got to be able to smell that, con them back into doing the job and man up and get it done, and you'll feel better about yourself, right? And I need someone to back me up like that.
Yeah. Yeah, nice. So you found you said the warning signs, and I
Mm.
think if I don't ask you a little bit about this, I'll be amiss. What were the warning signs for you that you said, okay, this is now something where I really need to start to hire and I need to start to add more people or I need to scale? Like, what did that look like for you?
Yeah, so it's hard trying to find technicians. So there's for one of the problems I had to solve was hey Ben, here's all this work. I'm like, yeah, sure, give it to me. And that, like, now I have to solve how am I going to actually physically get it done, right? And not just in my area, but in like maybe 5 other states, 31 states that we were going into, right? And so being able to find the amount of people, first searching for them, finding them, vetting them, and flying out to meet them. So my first scaling, I was flying around to every state. I'd call a bunch of technicians. I get leads of other guys. Oh, I know this guy. I know this guy. I would call them. I'd sort them through. I'd vet them, and then the ones I believed over the phone, I would fly and go meet, and I would do the jobs with them for like a week, right?
Really?
And then they met me in person, and then I showed them exactly how I wanted to do it. Then I could see if they were really the guy or not. And I did that for a couple of years, and that's how I built up a lot of the technicians that I trusted in the other states. But obviously, I couldn't go to every job and meet every technician in every state with the timelines, right? And I think a lot of that did hurt me in the beginning with the scaling because I wasn't able to do that, and I was getting burnt out traveling too many places.
Mhm.
And then I still need to do my own stuff too, even though I have people helping me in the office. I'm still responsible for a bunch of stuff too that I can't get done when I'm traveling too much or I'm in the field, right? So my first
Yeah.
scaling, I went into 31 states and me trying to
You went
vet
into
people and I
31?
yeah, I went into 31 states and I was trying to get as many jobs as I could done. And then at one point I decided that that wasn't the route, that wasn't the way we wanted to scale anymore. I didn't want to keep finding guys to do jobs in other states that I didn't have the biggest stake in.
Mhm.
Where the way I was doing it was someone sold the job and they just needed me to go get it done and they needed me to be a workforce management like platform, which I was doing and I was good at. But I didn't have control of the jobs, the sales, or the end customer to move dates. And because of that, I was like stuck in this friction point of like just hit this, just hit this, just hit this date, and I couldn't move anything, right?
Mhm.
And trying to manage that many technicians with the amount of people I had in the office didn't work, and I didn't want to have that many office people to manage that many people. So originally it was my dream, and then I scaled it back, and we started scaling a different way. We started
Mhm.
going a different route with our own sales, our own customers.
That's a pattern I've heard a few times actually. And Mark Roberge has been on the podcast. He was the first. He wrote a couple of books. The Science of Scaling is his latest book. His first one was the Sales Acceleration Formula. But he was the first CRO, and he built in my opinion, the greatest demand gen funnel
Uh,
and engine in SaaS history at HubSpot. But then I've also
uh,
had Jay Bear on recently, and we've talked a lot about scaling. And at times, the one of the patterns I've heard is that, well, I see some growth. I'm just going to go really fast, really soon. And then all of a sudden, it's like, okay, this is too much. I went too broad. Now I got to scale it back and become, as the comment is, the riches are in the niches. And so, where is the best part for you to focus on? Because I could only imagine you traveling 31 states, working with probably hundreds of technicians to do these
yeah,
installs, and you're now trying to both manage a business, do all the installs, do the HR, do all these things. Like, that's a lot of cognitive load for you, as well as just physical load of being in the field all the time.
right. Yeah, I had a crazy amount. Like I never thought I'd have like 1.3 million flyer miles on like Southwest and all these like crazy miles on like all these different carriers just going out there to try and manage it. But yeah, you're right. Like I went out there really quick and then I was like, you know what, that's not for me. I want to scale differently. I want to focus on my culture here with the technicians, focus on the culture of the guys that do take pride in their work, that I do want to continue to work with, that own other companies, that were our
Mhm.
subcontractors that we still use as of today. And then I wanted to start finding another way to generate reoccurring revenue, which we focus a lot on, and now we have that in the company too.
When you started to scale back from that broadness, was that also the time where you shifted from residential to commercial?
Nope. So I switched from residential to commercial before that. I switched from residential out of residential around 2012 and was like slowly trickling out until like maybe 13, 14. And we were still doing like I still had a couple customers that like owned a business and a home. And so we'd be like, okay, I'm gonna do your business and I guess I'll do your home because I do your business and they don't want to find someone else. There's like a
Yeah.
select people that we did that. We had around 10,000 residential customers by the time I gave it all away.
Wow. Wow. And so where did you give it away to? Did you sell that
So
part of the business off, or did you just
I did.
just oh,
Yeah, I did sell it. I gave it to a technician that has been with me, one of my first buddies and technicians named B, and we gave him all of that. So he still runs that to this day. I didn't take any money, no profit, no nothing from it. I said, I don't want to talk to any of these customers ever again in a nice way. I was like, you can talk to every one of them. No, I don't want to. And so I literally just gave it to him all for free. And he still continues to run that today.
and is that still part of your portfolio, or is that a separate
No,
business that B now runs
separate.
all?
Yeah, B runs
Wow.
the whole thing by himself. Yeah.
Wow, that's awesome. When you started to go back into some of these things, like what were the biggest challenges as you started to scale? So you told me you got Kirsten, now you're scaling back from 31 states to I think you said 5, I think is what you said.
Yeah.
So now you have
Yeah.
that focus. Where does the next challenges come? Is it hiring? Is it process? Is it playbooks? Is it something else? Like what was it for you to help you move into that scaling mode?
So when we scaled back and then I started action, um, that was around end of 2018 to 2019. And by then I had put all my eggs into one basket. So let's say I was doing work for multiple customers, but by 2018, I cut everybody off and I went into one customer. And then I was like, man, I'm like 85% into one company. And so by the end of that year, I said, I'm going to diversify and get into back to where I was and have my hands in multiple pots where we're selling our own stuff and we're having our own customers, our own sales, our own things to value adds to add to customers. And
Mhm.
so then I started spending almost all my time finding new customers to do work for. And then one of the key things I think was getting two full-time sales employees too, because I'm doing sales, managing, trying to run the company and stuff like that. So the next two key employees to that came later was that was getting in my own way, right? So to answer scaling back, and then the next problems was first I had to have a path. The path was let me find other companies to do work for so I don't have all my eggs in one basket. So I figured that out. I'm getting a bunch of customers, getting a bunch of customers. Pandemic hits, slows down a little bit. I'm having a ton of fun through the pandemic. Like I said, we can talk about that another time. I had that fever detecting
Oh yeah.
um, website, right? And so I was selling cameras and stuff. So we had a little slowdown with the pandemic, but I'm still able to pay for all my employees, keep them all on board, and not lose anybody. I paid everybody, even when I wasn't making any money. Everybody got paid like a regular 40-hour week during the whole pandemic. So
Wow.
I was able to have enough saved up to do that, and I got some of these other little business write off things, that PPP loans and stuff that I got to write off and pay for the technicians to keep them on. So I didn't lose anybody during the pandemic. We were just having fun selling those fever detected cameras. And once we slowly started getting out the pandemic, bigger jobs started coming back in. The economy started coming back in, and I got my first full time sales employee who was helping me sell we sell Verkada, which is like a enterprise access control camera
Mhm.
manufacturer, and he was able to help me sell that and scale that. So now we have recurring revenue with that brand that we sell. So we sell a ton of that Verkada. And so I don't know if you're familiar with that, but every surveillance camera and access control door that a customer buys, they have a license they have to pay to use the device, and it gives them a 10-year warranty, and then they have to renew it every year. So let's say they have 10 cameras and it's $200 per camera per year. Every year they have to renew that with me, and then we make a percentage of the license per year. So we
I think I saw that you installed Verkada at Verkada, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, we did. Yeah, we did. We installed Verkada at Verkada. Yeah, they were expanding so quick. They had a little small building that they took over just for a little bit while they're renovating a bigger building, and they needed to keep putting their employees in places. So we're helping them build that out for them early on. Yeah,
That's cool.
and so that really helped get me out my way of being able to have someone else sell when I can't be on every Zoom call trying to sell for everybody.
Yeah. And so the selling part is one that I've seen and I've heard from other founders is like I'm so close to I know exactly how to say it. I know the thing and I know the process and I can connect. I do all this. Bringing somebody else to take that sales aspect on. How hard was it for you to be like, okay, you got this now. I'm gonna go look over here because you've got this part of the Lego kit, so to speak.
Right. And that I still have that feeling that you're talking about. It's great
Yeah.
that you brought that up because I still feel like, you said that wrong. You should don't say it this way because I don't want you to be like a car salesman. I want you to say exactly how, even if you think we're gonna lose the deal. I want you to say exactly how that thing works. I don't want you to say it's gonna see someone from 200 feet away because it's not, or like, so I like to make sure that people sell the way I sell and the way I sell to someone. Sally sells by the seashore right there.
Yeah.
The way I sell is even if a product says XYZ, if I install it and I know it might fall a little bit short of that, I will make sure it's sold properly so the expectation is seen. I manage the expectations. I want to manage expectations and make sure it's sold correctly. And so to answer that question, I was on a ton of calls, in the beginning of all the Zooms and stuff until jobs started closing on their own, or I couldn't make one. I'm just like, you just got to get on it. We've already done a bunch of them. And they would just get on and do it by themselves, and the jobs would start to close. And if it becomes like super technical and the sales team doesn't know it, then I get on now. So that's how I get added now. So if they're like, I got it, I'm gonna schmooze the guy over, it's easier, we're gonna win. But then they're like, dude, he has all these crazy install questions and I can't figure it out. You got to be on with me. Then I'll hop on, answer all the questions, and that's where we're at now. That's how we're at. But yeah, it took a while to get there and make sure everybody knows how to sell it correctly and knows how to pitch it and do the demo and all that other stuff. And but yeah, even that I know, even that I still want to be on almost all the calls just because I want to be part of it.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
duplicating yourself, that's what you got to keep doing.
And it's that control, right? Like hearing from others is it's that control. Like I want to control all of that. I want to control, but I know in my heart of hearts, in order for me to grow, I need to let go. And I've heard
Right.
from other founders and other leaders, like it's the most challenging part to say, look, I'm really, really good at this part, but I know I'm needed in other places. And my trust is going to you. But like you said, is like bringing in the CEO or the founder of the company who has all this deep technical knowledge. It's a different conversation. So kudos to you to tell the sales team, you can take it this far. Once they get to this level, I call it the third why, right? The sales
Uh-huh.
team, I think, should be able to answer the first two whys. Well, why do you do this? Now, why'd you do it like that? Now, why specifically? That third why, now you're going into a technical rabbit hole and you need somebody who can talk that talk in
Yep.
depth that come in, and which is where you step in, which is a great
Right.
yin and yang, so to speak.
Yeah, totally. Which is still fun. I still like being part of that. And they're learning and they're able to knock out more questions without me now. So every time I get on that, they learn that if that question comes up again, they know how to answer it.
Yeah, awesome. So then the sequence of operations for you are kind of the hiring process because you had the technicians, now you got the trucks, now you got a salesperson. What's the next hire that you go, I'm either not good at this thing or you know what, this is adding too much cognitive load for me and I got to hand it off. What was that next one?
Okay, so first of all, hiring is the my worst freaking power.
Really?
Hiring someone and doing interviews is my worst, and firing I'm even worse at. Right. And so I needed help so bad, and I joined this group called EO, an entrepreneur organization in Sacramento. And during that process, I met a bunch of people. So that I met this guy Craig, and Craig used to be the CEO of Kellogg's, right? And he has his own business in town where he coaches CEOs and stuff and how to be better, right? And so I
Hmm.
would go see him, and he would unlock so many things. And when I met Craig, he's like, "What do you need help with?" Well, first he would be like, "Okay." He would be like, "What do you need help with?" I'd be like, "Hiring." Right? He's like, "I will come to your shop with you. You set up 3 interviews. I will sit through the entire interview process. And if you start to like freeze up, I'm going to take over, take control of the interview. I'm going to ask all the questions." And then he gave me this pattern. He would come to my shop. He would do interviews with me just to help me
Wow.
build that interview muscle. And so if I didn't have that, I still wouldn't be able to be at the level I'm at now, even though I'm not the best at interviewing now. But I'm way more comfortable now as him coming through and sitting down and interviewing with me. And then one of the biggest things he taught me was he's like, when you're sitting down and you're in this interview, and he's the guy at the other end is telling you everything. He's like, this is the date one night. He's like, you're about to get into bed with this guy. You're about to bring him in. You're about to hire him. And he's like, this is like the best. He's telling you everything you want to hear. He's like, now go follow up and call all of his references. He's like, you
Mm.
got to do the homework. If you don't do the homework and call the references, you're going to get stuck with, something that you might not have wanted. And so this guy, me and him both thought it was a great interview. He's like, you should hire that guy. I'm like, yeah, I think I should hire this guy. And he's like, before you get into bed with this guy and bring him into the company, you know, he's like, you have to call his references. And I called his references, and all three said, I would never rehire this guy. He's an alcoholic, and I would never rehire. And I was like, oh man. And if I wasn't going to call him, I was just like, no, he told me everything I wanted to hear. And so there's
Yeah.
still got to do your homework. And that's what a lot of things I would do is I'd spend all this time, I get someone, I train them, and they don't last like a month. And I just wasted all that time and effort. And so now we're very clear of what we want in the beginning.
That's awesome. And it takes time to get there. The hiring process is really hard. And even every role, you need a similar process, but you're asking different things. And how do you check for it? And how do you test? And what are those aspects, right? Because earlier
Right.
on, I've got to think when you were flying around and you're doing the job with the person, you knew, are they punctual? Are they knowledgeable? Can they do the work? Are they hardworking? Are they going to make sure? Do they own up to like, hey, you know what? I made a mistake. I should have done this. That's my fault. I'm sorry. Like you were able to see all of that in person, and now when you step out of it and you're trying to you're trying to manage all of these things, now again the playbook and the process change because this is the scaling moment where you go, okay, I can't ask all of this, I can't see it in person, but I've got to ask these
Right.
questions and follow a similar process. So the playbooks is really a scaling aspect that a lot of these founders and leaders that I talk to, they're so big on, especially as you start to make that transition.
Yeah. And we have other tactics we use for technicians. Like if I'm going to hire an actual employee out of my office, I'll go through a phone interview. Then, if I like them, they'll come into a in-person interview. Then, after that, before we hire him, we pay him to go on the job and work with me or one of my technicians to see if he can actually do what he says he can
Mm,
do. Then we hire him. So yes, there's three parts now to the technician.
yeah. Oh,
So
that's
so that
that's
part
awesome.
we have a real good vetting part. So then we're like, hey, no, you're not at the level you said you were. You just are just work out, and I still pay him for the day. So I still pay him
Right.
for the day, no matter what. He's going to get paid for the day for this like paid tryout.
Hmm.
And sometimes it might be 2 days just to like if a job cancels or something. You know what I mean? But at least we could vet him out really good that way. So the hiring technicians is a lot easier for me. Hiring someone in the office or sales and stuff is still hard for us to vet. And we're very upfront now. We're like, this is it. This is our company. This is what we do. Come to the shop. Come see us. This is what we're looking for. If we bring you on, we want to make sure you want to be here for a long time. We don't hire anybody for temporary. We don't hire anybody for us because we have one big project that I need to get done. I want to bring you on just so you know. So if you're planning on like leaving California to go to Texas, or if you're planning on doing anything, let me know now because I don't want to bring you on because it's going to hurt us as a smaller business.
Hmm.
And so those expectations help weed out a lot of people too.
Yeah. There's lots of hiring mistakes that I personally have been part of, and like you said, you go through it like, oh, this person's going to be great. They tell you all the right things. You go through the background checks, everything, but then it doesn't work out. And sometimes it's because the company hits a different scale or a different stage that they're not comfortable with, and is like, you know what? I only liked it when it was me and Ben, and we were doing jobs together. And now we're in this part where there's processes and all. Like, look, I don't want to do that. I'm just a one. I'm out. And then you get other
Yeah.
people that are like, show me what the playbook is, because if you don't have that, like I'm not the figure it out person. I'm the scaling person. And so there
Yeah.
are challenges, and trying to vet that isn't easy.
Yeah. Exactly. I know. And
Um,
then how do you solve that? Yeah.
Yeah, how do this the solving is the other thing. Now, the other thing you talked about is the scaling. Sorry, I cut you off. Sorry.
Yeah. Oh, no, no. Go ahead.
The other thing you talked, like as the scaling happens, you're now getting new customers and you've moved into or from residential to commercial. Now you're kind of going all in there. Did you always do the marketing? Did you have to hire somebody to do marketing? Like how did you connect the sales and the marketing aspect for that demand generation or that business development aspect?
So this is a funny one because I do absolutely zero marketing besides my YouTube and TikTok, and that only started during the pandemic. Other than
Really?
that, I run absolutely no ads. Never. I never run anything. I have zero paid marketing. Absolutely none. And I've tried it before here and there, and I just at the times I did try it. I didn't have like a CRM or an enterprise, any type of software to take the leads that did come in. and I never have. To me, I'm not a gambler, and so I feel like throwing money at Facebook ads to me was just like pulling the slot machine, and it hurts me to my core to do it, and I can't spend money on that. I don't know why. So I spend absolutely nothing on marketing. And so my marketing is me and my sales team going to customers, finding customers, me going to trade shows and meeting people at trade shows. That's one of my biggest marketing things is me meeting people at trade shows. But now the YouTube and TikTok channel do help. And I think I wouldn't have been able to scale without or be relevant without having it. But I don't do any marketing. And another thing is that's different with me is I have zero KPIs. These are the KPIs. This is how I know if my company's doing good. I don't look at a single number in our NetSuite or anything. If my inbox is getting slammed with emails, we're making money. And if my dumpster outside is overflowing with e-waste and trash, that's how I know we're making money. Those are the only two metrics that I use in my brain to measure if we're making money at all.
That is two. I got to tell you, Ben, those are two KPIs that I've never heard people paying attention to
Those are the
ever.
only two. Those are the only two I care about. And everything else, I don't care. I don't want to see it. I don't look at the numbers. I don't measure anything like that. I know, which is crazy. And there's some guys that are just number guys. I met some other guys that are like, oh, this week we're down 2.5% on this one, so I'm gonna tweak this. I don't care. I don't watch it like that. I just want to make sure our culture is good, our customers are taken care of. We're finding new customers. Everybody's happy there, and we're responding to people. And I watch how people are treating other people. I look for like other red flags of like indicators of the customer's upset, and then I jump in if I see it in the email or something, or I hear someone bring something to me, and I try to put that fire out. That's how I spend all my time, but I don't measure any other sales that way. I don't measure anything. I can't. My brain doesn't work like that. I can't even lie to you and say I can't watch it like that. It just doesn't work like that for me.
Wow. So then what if I can ask this, and if you tell me, Carl, I'm not answering that, like move on, which is totally cool. What do your weekly like do you have a weekly team meeting? Do you talk about, hey,
So
here's the pipeline, here are the jobs that are coming up? Like do you even talk about that stuff?
nope, I don't.
Wow.
I don't. I know I should. So I will talk to my sales teams one on one, and I'll talk to Kirsten one on one, and then we will have our technicians like every third Sunday or third Thursday of the month. We'll all come in and meet. We'll talk about the jobs. We'll talk about what's going on in the field and what work's coming up and what to do, what not to do. Here's the new parts we got. Here's the new tools we got. Here's the new product that's out. So we do have meetings like that. But on that, I don't. I don't even have um, sales goals for my exact sales team. And so they know as a whole the goal that we were wanting to get to, which was the 10 million. So everybody knew we had this one large goal, and then they set their own goals of how much they'd have to sell for us to hit that number, right? But I don't monitor them, and I don't hold them to the fire. If they don't hit it, they don't make their commission anyways, right? You know what I mean? And so my whole, maybe it's too laid back, or maybe I should be measuring it another way, but my brain doesn't let me, and I just can't run my company that way, and I can't force or fake it to be any other way.
Right. Well, and you're staying true to your values, like and true to your core. So good, kudos to you. I can already anticipate a sales leader who's in a high growth listening to this being like, are you kidding me? Like almost freaking out, being like, are you
Yeah,
serious? How are you doing that? And I say it with jest because it is something
yeah,
where
yeah.
I've just not heard somebody say like, here are my two areas of success. The dumpster is full for e-waste and my inbox is flooded. Everything else
That's
works
it.
itself out.
Yep, that's it.
Amazing.
Exactly how I work it.
Yeah. Um, so then how did the evolution to getting new customers happen? Because you said you're not doing marketing, you're not doing this, you've got a couple of salespeople, and you don't do
Mhm.
ads. Is it all cold calling by your team? Is it relationship selling? Is it you finish a
Yes.
job and you say, "Hey, Ben, I got anybody else you know that would be a great fit that you can introduce me to?" Like, how did you start to create that scale of the sales process?
Yeah, it's relationship selling, and a lot of employees move around pretty quickly in the tech world and stuff. And so let's say someone was at some tech AI company and they're there, and you know how fast they grow and you know how fast they go out or people move on. And so, you know, you have to treat the people that you're working with very well, even if the person that I'm dealing with isn't the one who's the one who writes the check. There's still like the decision maker below the CEO. Sometimes they will move on to another company, and you know, I always let them know, like, hey, if you ever go anywhere, just let me know if you ever need anything. You know, I could be a good reference for you. You know, like whatever it is, whatever type of relationship we have with them. Sometimes they move on, and then they call us back, and they're like, "Hey, I was at this other spot. Ben never let us down. This thing came down. All this stuff went down, and this job came out perfectly." And then they'll bring us back on because they want to look good again, and they use us to look good and say, "Look, at you need the same system here. I've already implemented it, and I've already done it with Ben. You're going to have no problems." And so then, so that type of relationship helps us too. They'll move to another spot. They'll call us, you know, we call it planting seeds and cutting trees, right? You know, it's not my saying, but someone else said it, but we like to use that saying, you know, so you're just planting seeds, and maybe someone calls you 2 years later, maybe someone calls you 3 years later. Someone called me the other day. Someone called me last week, and I did work for them in like 2015, 16 or something. I went to a new place. He saw one of my videos. As I came over here, I got this giant LED wall. Can you help me fix it? He just saw one of my videos that kept me on his mind, and we just fixed it in Texas the other day. You know, and so you have to continue. You know, just continue to be, you know, make sure your name is still good and continue to do what you say you're going to do in the industry, and people will call you back. And so now I have such a run rate of 21 years of us proving, you know, even if we mess up, it's not like we're always perfect, but if we mess up, I will go in the hole an obscene amount of money to make it right for that end user. No matter what, we sell something wrong and I have to spend 5 grand because I sold the wrong parts. I go buy it. I don't say nothing to them. I just go buy it, fix it, put it in, and make it right. You know, and so you know, and sometimes I let them know, like, hey, I designed it wrong. Whatever. I'm not going to charge you. I bought this part just so they know, and I just buy it. And sometimes I won't even tell them that, hey, I'm going to go in the hole because I don't want them to feel guilty that I'm like, oh, I'm going to lose 5 grand. So just so you know, I don't say nothing. I just go put it in and get it done. It's now our that run rate helps because we've been doing it for so long. And then relationships, you have calling back other customers, finding new customers, and our name in the industry really helps.
It's awesome.
And I know that it can't stay that way. And I know I need to get into marketing. And every year I have this, my buddy Riaz in Canada, who owns like a company. We revisit it every year. Like, you ready to start running ads? You ready to start getting this landing page? You ready to start doing this? And every year I look at it and then I'm like, I got to spend that much and I could just blow it. And I still struggle with that, but I do know I need to get to running our own ads at some point to see if that helps.
There's growth levers everywhere, and if that's an opportunity for you, awesome. It sounds like you've got a really great opportunity. I mean, your customer satisfaction, I'll say your CSAT metric sounds like it's incredibly high. And if you're getting those referrals, it's the best one because it's I lived the experience, which experience is a thing that maybe I just looked at the time, Ben. I told you I'd get you out of here within an hour, and we're getting
Yeah.
dangerously close. So I apologize for that.
Yeah. No
If you were
problem.
to go, if you were to think back, if you were to start the business over again, and you've learned
Mm.
all the things you've learned now, because experience is one of the greatest teachers of life. If you started over again, are there things that you would do differently now to try to prepare you for a scaling position earlier, or would you take would you take any different path than the one you've already taken?
Well, if I started over, I definitely would skip residential and go straight to commercial if I did start over. But you know what? I had to take those little baby steps. I had to crawl before I ran to even understand if I was good enough to do certain things, right?
Mhm.
And so I think that the biggest lessons would be I was too much of a late bloomer. I didn't maybe believe in myself enough or didn't look broad enough at everything that I was doing, and to pay attention into the market and the industry that I was in and spend more time on it and going deeper into the segment of like, what's the best cable that everybody uses, or what's this? And you'll find yourself down all these different paths. And I think I should have been looking into the industry as a whole more to find what we really liked and wanted to spend at, instead of like trying to do. every single thing that's in the low voltage world. And so be like, I could do speakers, I could do this, I could do that, I could do anything because it's low voltage and I have the license for it. I need to get down to the in and out menu and not the cheesecake menu. I know I say that all the time, but like, the cheesecake menus get so many items, I would cut it down and be better at like, a couple of things than try to do everything. And I should have focused more on the things we like the most.
Yeah, I use the term a lot: focus and frequency. How
Mhm.
frequently can you be focused at doing the thing that you're the best at? And if you can do that often, there's typically success follows. Um, is there is there something that you're now looking at? Like, what is the next path for you? Like, are you starting to think about what is the next hire? What is the next opportunity for you? What's that next evolution of scale for you that you're thinking about?
Yeah, then the first hire that we're currently looking for right now is in like an executive assistant just to monitor my emails and handle all the handle all my stuff. I've had a couple here and there over the years. I need to get that just to get a couple more nuanced things off my plate so I could focus on what I do best. And what I do best is like business development and like the sales of bringing in like a big client and bringing them over to our world and us being able to do work for them. And so I'm trying to uh, focus on that, focus on my time and what I do the best at, and then finish a couple of potholes that are in the company too. So Kirsten's overwhelmed, so she needs someone to help her with payroll and a couple of things. And once I solve for that, she can do a couple more things that she's best at. So there's two key hires right now. One, get stuff off Kirsten's plate, and the next one gets stuff off my plate, and then we can continue to grow it.
It's awesome. If we keep talking, Ben, I'll keep you here for far too long because I've really
Yeah.
enjoyed this. I like to ask everybody towards the end, like everybody likes new and nobody likes different. And when you're doing both at the same time, it can either cause friction or uncertainty. So for somebody as a founder that's thinking about how can they make the shift from founder-led sales to scaling, what are two or three actionable things that you would say, hey, do these things Monday morning so that you can get ahead and not make the mistakes that I made?
So the most actionable things to do on your and as you're scaling is, I think finding that one key salesperson that can do the sales that you can trust, who shadows you for a while enough and mirrors you enough to where you can, give the reins up. Getting one other guy just to close a bunch of calls for you is one, and finding that person. How do you find that person? How do you trust that person? And maybe you start off and they're just paid commission and they're just hunting what they eat. You know what I mean? Just until you can get them on full time. So, you could start off that way. You don't have to have like, I got to get a full time sales guy. I got to pay him hourly plus commission and monitor his KPIs. You could start off with someone on the side just
Mhm.
helping you close deals. A lot of people do that way. So I'd find like a 1099 sales guy to help you that you trust that steal your work. So it's a fine line. It doesn't steal your IP of what you're going after for. So I would work on that. What was the other part of the question?
It was just like a couple of actionable things of like
A
as
couple
you
extra
scale.
ones. Yeah, yeah. So I would definitely, start off with an outside sales guys if you can. That
Yeah.
would that would be one, right? And then really focusing on what you do best and then where do you want to go. So if you don't have your North Star of where you want to be and where you want this company to be, and you don't know what type of company you are, you have to solve for that. So if you don't have that, you're already running lost. So get your North Star, get your sales guys to help you. And as far as a routine, everybody's like work-life balance, and I don't know if I follow that or follow that all the time, or if it's even a real thing to do, but definitely have some time for you to focus on work. So my routine is that if I get up and I go to the gym from 5 a.m. to 6 a.m., I leave my do not disturb on, and hopefully nobody calls me in between then. And sometimes people do, but at least give yourself an hour alone time to figure out what you're going to do for the day. That's my routine, and find what that looks like for you. You know what I mean? And so I
Yeah.
get that, I figure out how my day's going to go, and then figure out, what I'm going to do throughout the day. So I think your daily routine is, if you're OCD like me, or you have to follow the same exact thing. I will literally eat the same thing. I will wear the same exact clothes every day just to make the mind numbing thing of what pair of pants and shirt to wear. If I open up my closet, it's white t-shirt, white t-shirt, white t-shirt, white t-shirt, white t-shirt, white t-shirt, blue pants, blue pants. It's like I will grab the same thing just to
Yeah,
make it easier for me. And all those little decisions help you, So I would definitely get you if you're behind on sales and you can't do all the sales yourself, maybe find a 1099 sales guy. Work on what's best for you and find what that is, and then I would figure out what your north star is. And once you figure out that north star of your company, you'll be able to find the path.
it's awesome. Yeah, there's a few things you said. Your time. Dan Martell, he is an entrepreneur coach, and he owns a bunch of businesses. But he wrote a book called "Buy Back Your Time." Get unstuck, reclaim your freedom, build your empire. Like this is his book. So there's that. And then the second thing you said is like creating time for yourself. The CEO of Vidyard, who I got to work with, he had a part where he called it the CTFO moment. Chill the f
Mhm.
out and just
Mhm.
give yourself some time. Dan is a big part of that too, because he says, exhaust your mind so you can, exhaust your body so you can prepare your mind. And then the other thing you said too that I really like, and I heard it recently, is about your cognitive load. And you think of your cognitive load of your bathtub and the number of decisions that you don't have to make on the day to day. And like you said, for your clothes, hey, I don't even have to think about it. I know I'm wearing a white shirt and a blue pants today. I'm out, gone. Like that's not something you have to think about to give yourself some more mental space. So these are some really great actionable things. And thank you for sharing. So I told you it was going to be shorter, but here we are.
No,
Um,
no worries.
Ben, this has been a lot of fun. And I think I could talk to you for hours. If somebody wanted to learn a little bit
Likewise.
more, say, hey, I want to talk to Ben, or I kind of want to look into their stuff, where would you suggest people to go and look, or to learn more about you?
Yeah, if you want to see the type of jobs we do, because it's hard to explain, maybe and didn't get a like good visual from the way I was like verbally vomiting too much on this call. Yeah. You can check out our YouTube channel, which is Digital Dreams Installs. There's the same for our TikTok, and that'll show you where the type of work we do and the type of customers we have and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And how one more nugget of why I started the channel was the reason why I started the channel wasn't to have customers like in my videos going and then tell us how good Digital Dreams was. Ben Buckley was so good. It's none of those. It's just me and my buddies goofing around doing some of these jobs. And if a customer doesn't know who you are in the industry, this is a good way for them to see you and who you really are. And they'll be like, oh, maybe have you ever done a building this big, Ben? Have you ever done a wall 20 foot long? And like, yeah, here's a 100-foot wall. And you send them the video and they're like, oh, and it cuts that in half, right? So that's how I use the videos for my sales is showing them the type of work we do. And if they didn't know me and they didn't think I could do a job the scale of the project they have, and I show them something that's larger, then it helps build that trust. And that's what I use that channel for.
Nice. Awesome. Um, Ben, your story is one where I have learned a lot about and I really enjoy, and I would happily have you back to do another one of these, like you said.
Yeah, I would.
It's been a lot of fun, and this stuff,
Yeah.
if you're into AV, check it out. It's super cool. And you'll probably have a great experience working with Ben, because my experience with him so far, we've not met in person. We've just had a couple of chats. I can say I find him to be very genuine and curious, and only wants the best for his customers. So thank you for doing this.
Right on. Thanks, Carl.
Awesome. That's going to wrap up another episode of the Revenue Problem Solvers. Obviously, want to thank Ben for sharing incredibly invaluable insights. And there's some strategy you can put into action. Remember, success leaves clues, and every revenue problem has a solution. Sometimes you just need the right conversation to find it. Until next time, it's Carl with the Revenue Problem Solvers, helping you turn your obstacles into opportunities. Thank you for investing your time with us today. We'll see you on the next episode.